I am not the kind of person who shares things online usually, but I feel that this is something I cannot keep to myself any longer. I am not the type to write long-winded Facebook posts about my feelings or my government cover-ups, and I definitely don't tell strangers on 4chan about my personal life. But something happened to me on New Year's Day, 2024, and every time I try to move past it, something just pulls me back there. I don't expect people to believe me. I just need to say it out loud or I think I might actually lose my mind. It's something people have wondered about for a while now, with no real explanation. Come on, no one buys that teenagers messing around crap. Yes, it's what you're thinking, the Miami Mall incident. It happened at the Bayside Marketplace in Miami. I know you already know this shit, but fuck you, I'm laying out everything. For those unaware, that's a big touristy shopping center downtown, right on the water. If you live in the area, then you know it's always packed, especially in holiday season. This year, my little sister was home from school. She is 17 years old and about to graduate high school. She is a real smart kid, and way better than I ever was in any subject. I wanted to surprise her with something nice before she left for college. Nothing big, just a decent handbag from one of the stores she always browses online. I got off work around 6:30 p.m. I work construction, mostly drywall and concrete work, so I was still wearing my busted and musty construction clothes when I pulled into the lot. I did not think much of it. I was tired, it had been a long day, and I figured I could just be in and out in about 20 minutes. Bayside was busy as hell, but that was nothing unusual. The whole place was buzzing with people. Families were taking selfies by the bay. Kids had those LED spinning toys that you see at carnivals, and there was music coming from one of the live stages. It felt just like any normal day, almost stupidly normal, considering what I would be walking into. I went straight to a store on the second floor. I don't really remember the name, but it was one of those sleek designer outlets with security tags on everything, and way too many mirrors. I picked out a white bag with a gold trim. It wasn't cheap, but it looked like something that she would actually use. The girl behind the register looked me up and down, like she thought I might steal it, but I ignored it. I am kind of used to looks like that. I'd just finished paying when I noticed something strange. A sound, coming from the lower level. It wasn't loud exactly, more like a change in the way the crowd sounded. You know how background noise in a busy place has like a certain rhythm to it? Stuff like conversations, laughter, shoes on tile, the occasional cough or baby crying. That rhythm broke. It was like someone had turned the crowd's volume down just slightly, but not all at once. They did it in patches, like some people were still talking and moving normally, and others just weren't. I stepped out into the balcony area above the food court. That is when I saw the first people running. Not screaming, just sprinting. Their faces weren't panicked in the way that you would expect if there was a fire or a shooting. They looked confused. Some looked like they were crying, but more out of frustration or disorientation than fear. I turned to ask someone what was going on, but the girl behind me had already locked the store doors. She mouthed something at me through the glass, something like, "Get out," or "Don't look." I couldn't really tell. Her eyes were wide though, and she looked like she was about to vomit then and there. I started walking toward the escalators when a man came stumbling up from the floor below. He was in his 40s and was wearing cargo shorts and a Dolphins jersey. He looked totally out of it if I'm being honest. Looked like hard drugs at first glance, total brain melt. His hands were hanging limp at his sides and his mouth was moving, but no sound was coming out. His eyes were glassy and they looked dead. He walked past me, then collapsed face first onto the floor. Like, all in one fluid motion. He was taking step by step by step, and then bam, he just plummeted while in the middle of his stride. It wasn't normal at all, even for a druggie. I froze on the spot after that. People around me started to run. There were more people running now, and much faster too. I heard someone yell something about gas. Someone else said it was a shooter. This sent me into a fucking panic. I am lucky enough to have had a relatively stress-free life and have never had anything on this scale happen to me, so this really sent me over the edge. A woman was on her knees near a railing, holding her phone like she didn't know how it worked anymore. Her nose was bleeding, gushing almost. It just wouldn't fucking stop. I did not know a person could lose that much blood and remain conscious. And she just kept saying, "It was behind me," over and over. I don't know if she was talking to someone on the phone or to herself, but judging by the state of her, I don't think she managed to reach anyone. Now that I think about it, I am pretty sure my phone signal was completely dead while I was in there. I remember taking a glance at it for the time, for a split second, in the midst of all the panic, and realized I could not reach anyone. I don't know if coincidence, or if intentional. I don't know if someone was blocking the signal, or something. I know how this sounds, I really fucking do. I know what this sounds like some drug panic or a mass delusion, or maybe even a carbon monoxide leak. That's what I wanted to believe too. But I cannot explain what I saw next. I was moving toward the stairs when the lights flickered. Not like a power outage, but more like a dimming of sorts, like someone was slowly lowering the brightness on the entire mall. That's when I noticed a shape, standing in the middle of the floor below. I thought it was a display at first, one of those stupid New Age art installations that make zero sense to any normal person. It didn't move like a person. It was tall, way too tall to be right. I couldn't give you a full estimate. After the fact, I've heard 10 feet tall or more, but I could not even judge the scale of it in person. It was like my mind could not comprehend it. Its limbs were too long, and it didn't seem to have a face, at least not one that you could focus on. It was blurry, not out of focus blurry, but shifting. Like the pixels of it did not want to stay still. I cannot believe I just used the word pixels for something in real life, FML. I blinked and it was 10 feet closer. Not moving, just closer, like it teleported a short distance or something. A couple of people were standing near it. One of them, a young guy in a red hoodie, stepped forward like he was drawn to it. He reached out with both hands, and then just stopped moving completely. Not stiff like he froze, but loose, like someone turned him off. He collapsed. Then his skin, I am not exaggerating, turned a kind of grayish white in a matter of seconds. His body didn't even twitch. I wanted to run, but my legs would not move one bit. It wasn't fear stopping me, it's like they physically would not move an inch, no matter what I tried. It was like being underwater and trying to run. The air felt thick and full of static. Something in my ears started to ring. It was a high-pitched and steady sound, like feedback from a microphone. And then I felt it. Not a touch or a sound, but a presence in my head. Like someone was paging through my thoughts without permission. Not reading them, but rearranging them. I started to remember things wrongly. Just a stream of memories flooding through my head that just weren't true. I remembered a dog we never had. I remembered my sister as being an only child, and like I never existed. I felt a memory of dying that didn't belong to me. As in, I felt and saw someone else dying, but it was like I was them. I don't know if that even makes sense. It's something I still have not really come to terms with, and can't fully explain to this day. It wasn't a dream or anything like that. It was like someone shoved their last moments into my head, without warning or permission. Except I didn't know whose moments they were. Alternate realities, maybe? I was standing in the parking lot of the Bayside Marketplace when it hit me. I don't even remember how I made it outside. I have like a few scattered memories before I got there, but nothing concrete that I can place together. I remember running, but like I was on autopilot. I remember other people collapsing and falling to the ground. I remember other people bleeding, gushing blood from different places, and then just hitting the ground. I remember another of those creatures standing in front of me as I ran, towering over me. I remember it touching me again, but it like phased through me instead of bringing me to a halt. I remember that it hurt like hell, like a sudden migraine or something. I remember armed cops shouting at me, but I could not stop myself and just ran past them. They did not even bother trying to stop me, they just let me go. I remember paramedics trying to rush in, but cops stopping them. I don't know what else happened in there after that. Anyway, once I reached the parking lot, suddenly I was somewhere else, a hospital room, a woman gasping for air. Her skin was pale, translucent almost. She was hooked up to machines, but they weren't helping. I could hear her ragged breathing, smell the antiseptic, feel the sweat on her forehead. And then I saw the blood, dark, sticky, pooling beneath her. She tried to call for help, but barely had the strength. I could feel her panic, her regret. I was her, but not me. Her final breath was a rasp, full of pain and something else. Guilt, maybe, or loneliness. I stumbled backward, gasping for air. The memory faded like a bad smell, but it left something in me, a cold knot of fear that didn't go away. Over the next few days, it kept happening. Not just that one memory, but others too. The man crushed beneath a collapsing wall, screaming silently as the dust swallowed him. A kid hiding in a closet while screams echoed outside. A woman tied up in a basement, begging for mercy that never came. I felt all of it, all of their pain, every single sensation. They weren't just images. I could feel their terror, their hopelessness. And every time it happened, I could feel something cold and heavy pressing down on my chest, like the creatures from that night were still inside me, whispering and watching. I didn't tell anyone. I mean, who would believe me? After what happened at Bayside, the cops were already calling me crazy. I tried to tell the police about everything I saw and what I witnessed. I went to the precinct a few days after the incident, hoping to report what I saw. But they just brushed me off. Probably just stress, one officer said. Lots of people saw teenagers causing trouble that night. You probably just got caught up in it. When I pressed harder, asking about the security footage, the cameras, anyone who might have caught what really happened, they suddenly clammed up. The officers changed the subject. One looked me in the eye and said, "Look, man, you don't want to get involved. Best to just forget all this and move on." I left, feeling like I'd just been warned. Then came the news blackout. There were no official reports of anything unusual, no mention of shadow creatures or mass hallucinations. Instead, every channel and newspaper talked about how a group of unruly teenagers started fights, set off fireworks, and caused a panic. Even the eyewitness videos people posted online disappeared overnight, either taken down or accounts suspended. I even heard rumors about phones being confiscated at the mall by authorities, with footage deleted before anyone could share it. The more I looked into it, the more I realized there had to be some kind of deliberate cover-up. I'm not the only one. A few others have come forward quietly, people who also saw things that night. They don't want to talk publicly because they're afraid of being labeled insane or worse. I've seen their accounts online, although they don't always stay up for long. I just don't understand the things this creature showed me. The false memories surrounding my life, and then the deaths of all those random people. I've seen lots of theories online about these things being some kind of interdimensional entities or a covert invasion. I can understand why they want this covered up, because the truth would send the masses into a panic. I mean, what could you even do against these things? I don't know how much the government knows or to what extent they're involved. All I know is it doesn't look good. Maybe it was a test to see what they could get away with. How major of an incident they could memory hole. I mean, shit, it's only been about a year and you see nothing about it anymore. I know that news becomes old fast with the internet, but I feel like within a week, everyone had moved on and clammed up, aside from on the more obscure forums. Could it have been some kind of psychological warfare? Or maybe these things really are aliens and we are absolutely fucked. That's about the extent of my story, I guess. I don't even really know what else I can say. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you do and you want to hear more, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel and leave a comment down below, as it lets the algorithm know that you like my content and it promotes it to more people. My goal for the channel is to hit 50,000 subscribers, and we're closing in fast, so thank you, and back to the stories. At 5 years old, I encountered, spoke to, and physically touched the Sandown Clown. At the time of the event, I was 4 or 5 years old, and the sun was beginning to descend, so late afternoon at best. My memory of what happened sticks out because it would shape the things I would draw as I grew older. I was sitting on a large boulder in my grandparents' backyard. It had been dug out some time before me to make way for a large decorative fish pond that by my time was rarely used except to entertain me. My grandfather had just gone inside, and I knew enough to not go swimming in the gross water. It was at this moment I heard a noise to my right and turned around. To the right of my grandparents' home was the neighbor's massive field. I can't remember what crop they grew, but the tall grass at the time probably means it had not been used in a while. Standing in the grass was a figure, with a scarecrow pose, arms out, straight body. His hat was cone-shaped, his face features wooden. He had a jack-o'-lantern face with an empty nose hole, but he still looked alive. But when he talked, his mouth did not move. I could hear him in my head, like telepathy. He gave off major clown vibes, which I was comfortable with, as both my parents did charity events as clowns. I would say he was roughly 6 to 7 feet tall, with wide shoulders. He wore scarecrow clothes, with patches of bright colors over pale brown and black, but what he said to me was what you re-sparked in my memory, and left me with the distinct knowledge that not only was I not the only one anymore to have seen him, but that a vivid experience could have been something more sinister. He waved a wooden hand, and I heard a voice say, "Hello, Sam. We are all colors." I remember distinctly that he asked it as a question, and I responded with, "My name is Luke, not Sam." I wasn't scared. I felt calm and relaxed until the end of the encounter. He pointed at himself and did a short bow, then reached out into the field next to him and opened the door. The door had not been there before and was not attached to anything. I could see inside the gap of the door, and the room inside was green, with wooden chairs. He motioned for me to come with him. I remember getting up off the boulder, walking with him through the door, and being enveloped by bright red and green Christmas lights. They were as bright as the sun, and I had to close my eyes to keep from going blind, or so I thought. I woke up, laying on my grandparents' couch. It was dark outside, and my parents rushed in when I called out to them. They had found me half an hour before, asleep in the middle of the field, having called for me and not hearing me answer when things got dark. It was last year, when I first started hearing about the Sam the Sandown Clown encounter, and I remember how similar it was to my own encounter. I honestly believe they were either the same, or slightly different entity as my own encounter. As it's been months since the encounter, I've been able to deal better with the newer information connected to my experience. Sam did not try any tricks with me, like with the children from the Isle of Man. Sam's voice wasn't vocal, if that makes sense. It was like an echo hitting off of something and hearing that inside of my head rather than through my ears. Thinking it over, I believe the full sentence was, "Hello, Sam. We are all colors. Skip the starlight." The inside of the green room has come up again in my mind. I've tried remembering other details, and when I sat down and tried to nail down anything else about it, I distinctly recall that there were 2 empty wooden chairs and 2 occupied chairs further back. The door was see-through. I never saw a doorknob. I could not make out details about the other people sitting in the chairs, but they had the same outline as well. Sam. The hat, the head shape, long arms and legs, but the details are just a void. Like when someone's face gets blurred to protect their identity. I thought I would share my experience here, finally, as I feel much better about it than initially. So I tried to post yesterday, but I got a weird error message, and it deleted what I wrote. Guess I will try again. Here is a collection of weird events that have happened in my house. Be a little kid. Religious family. Move into new house. Decide one night to talk to God. Keep hearing these weird knocks throughout the night. Say stuff like 1 knock for no and 2 for yes. Get responses. Still live in same house. Haven't heard that knocking in years. Mom and sister talking in sister's room. The door handle violently turns on its own. Me and my father are nowhere close by. Mom says she is creeped out by weird things happening in my sister's room. Does some weird ritual to ward off spirits. Throughout me living here, I see hallucinations of figures. Most of them disappear when I look at them. See orange glowing figure in corner of room. Disappears. See black figure in corner of room. Waits for a moment, then disappears. One night, see a red devil looking figure, although about 1 to 2 feet in estimated height. He does the classic crawl all over the walls and ceiling routine. Disappears behind some furniture. Mom bursts through the door. Says she felt worried and wanted to check on me. Had my backpack sitting on a chest. At the time, it had to have been 20 pounds or more. laying in bed when the backpack comes flying off of the chest and onto the floor. Outside one night. Have a couple of sheds by the house with a fence covering the side from the front. Hear banging from the side of the house, so I walk over. Gate doors cracked open. Push it a little farther. Shed doors also cracked open. Suddenly swings open. Nobody pushed it. Run back inside and don't tell anyone what happened. Have a tendency to see the same dark figure from the earlier story around my house, but he always disappears before I can get a good look at him. Apparently, the previous owner died in the house. Have a ritual of praying for protection and sleeping next to a Bible every night now. Haven't seen the dark man recently. As I was thinking about it, I started to remember more, as well as a different kind of paranormal story. My father had some weird experiences too. One day, he even told me he was sure our house was haunted, but would not tell me why. He did, however, tell me he would get these feelings of utter terror out of nowhere, where he would suddenly be freezing cold out of nowhere. My dad was no pussy though. I'd never seen him scared in my life, and he was a non-vet, so he handled himself pretty well. More details on the figures. The shadow man is definitely masculine, and the only one I've seen multiple times. The orange figure, however, was most definitely feminine, as I could make out the face, hair, and clothing, unlike the shadow man, who seems almost featureless. As for the other part, be younger me, be in Boy Scouts, camping in some rural park one weekend. It's about evening. I am sitting in a hammock talking to one of the younger scouts about something. The forest is nothing but really tall pines and smaller trees. Spot something above the pines. A glowing green disc flying pretty far above the trees. I would say I'm fairly good at estimating distance, and it looked to be roughly 100 feet high. Try to get this little idiot to turn around and look at it, but he keeps talking, and it disappears behind the trees. It almost seemed to be floating at a constant speed on a straight path. I don't think it was a frisbee because of how high it was, and how it was flying straight like that. Before you say drones, this was before they were so common, and the thing was definitely shaped like a disc. Not coming to any quick conclusions on what I saw, but I am curious to know if anyone has an explanation for what it was. Work overnight security at an industrial complex. We are in a rural area. Sit in my security shed most of the time with a few patrols. Happens randomly, but groups of birds, 10 to 30 mostly, but had a time when there was over 75, would follow me around on patrol. I would get out of my shed, and they would be on the roof of a nearby building. They'd just stare at me. They don't caw or whatever you call birds barking. After I move far enough away, they fly to a closer building and stare again. Rinse and repeat. Also have the occasional woman-sounding screams, but have been told it's probably just a fox or a mountain lion. I have a few more unexplained stories I will post later. I forgot to mention, but my employer said, while they won't provide me one, they will allow me to carry a firearm at work. I'm not a lawyer or security expert, but I think that's pretty rare since employers don't want the liability risk of their security guard shooting someone or themselves by accident. I did not carry a gun with me to work until this happened one night. In my security shed. Cameras are all clear. Time for my patrol. Nothing out of the ordinary. Head back to my shed. Can see from a distance the lights are off. Huh? Couldn't have lost power since the lights on the paths and other buildings are still on. Walk towards my shed. Do a 360 of it at a distance. No tracks or anything. Go in. The light switch is clearly turned off. Flip it. Lights back on. Weird. Time for another patrol. Lock the shed door this time. Everything is fine. Go back to my shed. Lights are out again. Okay, now someone is fucking with me. Door is still locked. Unlock it. Light switch is flipped off. Turn it back on. Only another security guard or high-level employee would have a key to my shed. Get on radio. Whoever is here, stop messing with me. No reply. Shed windows have rolled-down shutters. That's another story. Creeped, so shut them. Decide no more patrols for that night. About 4 a.m. Notice on one of the cameras that the light goes out on a storage shed. Shed is the furthest one away, right by the tree line. Fuck it. Wait till 6 a.m. when people start trickling in. Get another employee to go with me. The shed has big 15-foot doors, and they are open enough for someone to walk through. They are not locked, but it takes effort to open them, so it has to be deliberate. Nothing is missing. Start bringing a gun with me after that. Here is one last short one before I have to head out for a while. I did not experience it. It's just what I have been told by another employee. Security guard freaks out and leaves in the middle of his night shift. Doesn't even come back to get his stuff or paycheck. Another night guard quits, but explains what happens. He's in the security shed at night. Hears something outside. Nothing on cameras, but there is a blind spot on one side of the security shed. He opens the blinds to the window and sees a face staring right at him. Closes the blinds, curls up, and calls for backup. Another guard arrives and sees nothing. He tells the boss, who says it was just his reflection in the window. Guard goes back to work. Everything is normal for a few weeks. Then same thing happens another night. This time, he turns the lights off in the shed before opening the blinds. A face staring right at him. That is enough and he quits. When I was 23 years old, I had to make a cross-country move from Kentucky to Oregon. My girlfriend at the time lived in Eugene and had lined up a couple of job interviews for me. 2 phone interviews had already gone well, so I felt optimistic about the change. The only real catch, I had to drive the whole way alone. I owned a small pickup, just enough to cram in everything I was taking. I sold the rest or donated it to make a little extra money. I knew I would need to stop a few times, maybe even sleep once or twice, but I had planned for that. The bench seat in my truck doubled as a bed. It wasn't ideal, but it beat shelling out for a hotel. The part that still sticks with me happened as I was cutting through western Kansas. It was late, about 1 a.m., and I was already well past my usual bedtime. As anyone who has driven through Kansas can tell you, it's a whole lot of flat nothing, with nothing on the horizon and fatigue setting in hard. I decided to pull over. The highway was deserted. I had not seen a car in hours, and on both sides were endless rows of cornfields. It felt safer to park and sleep than risk drifting off behind the wheel. I edged the truck onto the grass shoulder, cracked the windows, and texted my girlfriend that I would be stopping for the night. It was early August, warm, with a slight breeze. No streetlights, just the stars above and the ambient hum of insects. I lay back against my pillow and started to drift. I was right on the edge of sleep when I heard something, soft, irregular footsteps in the field beside the truck. I opened my eyes, still groggy, and listened. It didn't sound like the wind or a deer. Something about the rhythm was off. A pause, a dragging noise, then another step, and then a groan. It wasn't human, but it wasn't quite animal either. It sounded strained, almost pained. My gut told me to stay in the truck, but curiosity got the better of me. Maybe someone really was hurt. I sat up, grabbed the flashlight from the glove box to save my phone battery, and stepped outside. Scanning the cornfield, I caught sight of movement, stalks swaying in a spot off to the right. I had never walked through a cornfield before, and I did not realize how dense they were. The stalks resisted me, the dry leaves slapping against my arms and catching on my shirt. I almost gave up, but then I found a patch where something or someone had pushed their way through. I followed the broken trail deeper, flashlight pointed low. That is when the sounds changed. I heard a wet, crunching noise, like chewing but louder, messier, sloppy. I felt my stomach tighten. The trail widened ahead, and that is when I saw it. A large, hunched figure loomed over what looked like the body of a deer or some other animal. Its shoulders were broad, its movements twitchy and uneven, almost mechanical. It was too big to be a coyote, too malformed for a deer, and it didn't move like either. Then it stood up. What I saw did not make any sense. Its legs were too thin for its body, with strange double joints that made it bow-legged. It towered, yet looked almost collapsed in on itself. I froze. It reached down with long, gnarled fingers and gripped a limb from the carcass, then ripped it free. I heard the wet pop of joints separating and the tearing of muscle. It raised the bloody piece to its face and began gnawing. That's when I gagged, loudly. It stopped. I will never forget how it turned to look at me, slow and deliberate, like it knew I was there the whole time and had finally decided to acknowledge it. I lifted my flashlight and aimed it straight at its face. Its snout was long, somewhere between a dog's and a bear's. but the skin was patchy and raw, with tufts of fur hanging off. The eyes, they were pure black. No reflection, no whites, just pits. Something primal kicked in. I ran. I tore through the corn, getting sliced by stalks, tripping on roots, gasping for air. I was moving too fast to care where I was going. I did not even realize I had passed my truck until the corn opened up again, and I saw it behind me. I doubled back, leapt into the cab, slammed the door, locked it, and turned the key. The engine roared to life. I peeled out, back onto the road, and did not stop until I reached a town nearly 70 miles west. I pulled into the first gas station I saw, and just sat there in the parking lot, hands trembling on the wheel, trying to convince myself I was awake. I was a grown man, but I have never felt fear like that. Something about that thing was wrong in a way that's hard to explain. It wasn't just that it didn't belong in a cornfield, it did not belong anywhere. I kept thinking about how isolated I was. No one knew exactly where I had stopped. If that thing decided to come after me, there would have been no one to find me. No one would even know where to look. When I told my girlfriend the next day, she was shaken. We tried to rationalize it, but nothing we came up with fit. I did end up stopping once more to sleep on the way, this time in a brightly lit Walmart parking lot in Utah. No more remote cornfields, no more silence. Now that I'm settled in Oregon, I have already made one decision. If I ever go back east, I'm flying. I will take TSA lines and overpriced tickets over Kansas at night any day of the week.